I read an article in about 2016, 2015 that the products marketed to Black people are more toxic than the products marketed to everyone else. And so that I didn't like that, kind of geeked out and started looking up all the studies, looking up all the ingredients, understanding what regulations are in place in other countries, and like trying to make sure I was using the most non-toxic products that I could. Personality is that when I know something better, I want all my friends and family to know the same thing. And so I'm telling them what they should and shouldn't use. And I'm trying to encourage them to pull stuff off their shelves and say, you should use this instead. And here are the reasons why. I'm a bit over the top. And so I was like being very proactive in trying to get that done. Um, and then my family and friends said, Kristen, this is too hard. Can you please make this easier for us? Like we get what you're doing. Like your background's public health, like, but make it easier for us. So my brain is churning, trying to figure out how can I make this easier? How can I make this easier? And then I read the book Our Black Year by Maggie Anderson. And she talked about her family's commitment to buying all Black products for a year. And I was moved by her book. And there was something in her book that kind of hit me is that you vote with your money. And so it's intentional about what you're consuming. It's another way of voting that you are indicating to the market, you're indicating what you think is important. There's value behind where your dollar is spent. And so once I kind of was moved by that, the value behind where my dollars are spent, then I had like a eureka moment. I said, okay, I can start a marketplace. I can start a company where we have all natural products that are non-toxic. I do all the work looking at their ingredients that are also Black women owned to allow people to kind of put their money where their heart is. And so that's how Black and Green was born. Me trying to meet my own needs and make it easier for my friends and family to do it with me.
And you mentioned that you have this rigorous approach to anything that you're interested in. Do you feel like that is part of that transition? You have the most incredible academic background, working in the public health space. Do you feel like you bring that chapter of your life into the work that you do now and running a business?
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe because prior to me working at doing my business, I was a professor in at GW. Before I was a professor, I was in hospital administration. And that's kind of like the business side behind hospitals. And so I think I got a lot of firsthand view of what that looked like. What do these numbers look like? What does that mean? I worked at Hopkins for about a 5, 6 years, and so I kind of really got that piece of my knowledge base grew to kind of understand the way that businesses operate and the way that businesses work because I don't have the MBA, but I think I kind of learned on the ground what that would look like. And I wrote my dissertation on health disparities and how when you can control for everything else, Black people still have worse health outcomes compared to anyone else. And so I went with I understand that correlation doesn't always mean causation, but was moved to try to see if I could help tackle pieces of that. If we know where products are marketed to us that are more toxic, we know foods are marketed to us that are more toxic. Well, how can I start helping us change our relationship with these different inputs into our body to have better health outcomes? And so I kind of was able to take all this knowledge from all these different areas and kind of push them all in one place to try to make it user friendly and have a customer centered experience for my tribe that I'm building with Black and Green to kind of live happy, healthy, and free.
You mentioned at the top that you read the article about some of that disparity in the beauty industry. Could you help us understand what that looks like in 2025?
Absolutely. So oftentimes when we're looking at the beauty industry and I'm looking for Black owned brands in the beauty industry, something I have all the conversations with a lot of beauty owners who are making products all the time. And I'm trying to understand what is their big vision, what's their big mission, and kind of what's stopping them from getting there. And I often hear that retail is a piece of the chapter to try to start a successful business. That you have to get some access to retail to be able to sell your products in mass. And so understanding how to operate in the retail space is important for smaller Black brands, but also retail is very expensive. And I don't think that the average person who made this amazing new soap understands the expenses that are going to be calculated, are going to it takes to kind of be in your targets of the world, to be in these larger retail spaces. And so oftentimes a lot of smaller brands just simply can't afford it. It's just too expensive to kind of get in these larger retail spaces. And then it's a team to do that. And so it's this interesting challenge that you made this amazing product. You were looking for something on the shelves, you couldn't find it. 9 times out of 10, these aren't chemists. They aren't their backgrounds in cosmetics. They're someone who created a product because they couldn't find something they needed, and they share it with their family. Their friends and family told them to start a business. And like, I don't know anything about starting a business. So that's kind of the they got it grows, and because of that, they're like, I don't know. I have this amazing thing. I created this amazing laundry detergent, but I don't know what else to do with it after that. And so it's kind of helping hold their hands and guiding them to say, okay, just because you don't access a lot of capital doesn't mean you have to be left behind. So kind of Black and Green holds the brand's hand, kind of walk them down the path and make connections when they need connections, and to try to help them grow in their brand and be whatever they want it to be. And so it's interesting because when I started Black and Green, that was not, I did not foresee that being a big piece where I spend a lot of my time. I think I was looking at it more from the health perspective of trying to,
Right.
because I understood that Black folks were spending billions of dollars on personal care products. And I was like, I wanted to spend that money on all natural, non-toxic products. So I had more of that lens of trying to connect my customers with better products, not so much the lens of the creators of the products. They also need some support to make sure that they could actually supply them with those products in the first place.
What is your evaluation criteria for the products that you carry on the Black and Green retail website?
So with Black and Green, we have a long onboarding process. And there's a couple of about 10 things that we're measuring. The first thing that we're measuring is ingredients. And so we are looking at the ingredients, and we use the Environmental Working Group Skin Deep database to kind of run all the ingredients through that to get toxicity scores of every single product that we create. And the beauty of why we like working with that database is as this, because the research doesn't stop. And so it's not like a list of products that we have, and then as things change, the ingredients of it can change. And so we like the Environmental Working Group partnership because as more data comes out, their database is changing. So it's not a static piece of information. We do have our toxic 20. So there's 20 ingredients that we banned wholesale, that we believe that not even a small percentage of something, we don't want it at all. And so we do understand that in other countries that they do allow certain ingredients, but they have more regulation about the amount of that ingredient. Whereas here, we don't have that regulations at all. So I have a couple of colleagues who are chemists, and they explain that when they make products that are going to be more international, there's more requirements for the international brand about how much of certain ingredients can be used that don't exist here. She says, but her the way that she operates is she said, I always try and meet that standard, even though we don't have it here, because she said that helps in a couple of ways. That gives that brand the ability to grow outside of the US if they need to, and also from a more ethical sustainability standpoint. She knows that she's making a better product because they have made formulation requirements that are a little bit more driven by the data than we have done here.
Do you feel like there are any misconceptions that our listeners should be keeping in mind when they're thinking about green beauty products or more natural beauty products? Is there any misunderstanding or kind of false claims out there that they should be aware of as they're working through maybe cleaning up their own, I was going to say bathrooms, but their own makeup bags, that sort of thing?
Marketing is so powerful, and marketing is on both sides. So there's marketing that says this product is amazing and this product is green, it's all natural. And there's also been a lot of marketing around certain ingredients that are bad, that people say, well, I don't want an ingredient with any parabens in it. I know as a definite no for that. Um, uh, the complicated piece about it is that it's a science, and a little bit of an ingredient and a certain percent may be okay, but it's not a lot of it. But the marketing can scare people wholesale off. I don't want that ingredient at all. And so it's very complicated and challenging for the consumer to understand, because the way that marketing works, you just never know what's truthful. And what really hurts my heart in a lot of ways is that what we're being told and what we're being marketed to is very often not the truth, but is often what can make the most money. So I think that once we understand that a lot of marketing is through that lens of money making, and then it makes you, as the consumer, has to be more critical. But the issue with the consumer being more critical is you're having so many things you're touching all the time. You don't have the mental space to be that critical about everything, which is finding amazing marketplaces who are doing that work for you, because you don't have time to do all the research on every single product, on every single ingredient, and figure out what they do, to look behind the mask of marketing. It's a lot of labor. So I think it's important why organizations like Black and Green, like Mom's Organic, places that you know that they have standards. When I shop from them, I know their standard. I trust their standard, so I don't have to take such a heavy lift when I want to pick that up. So I would encourage consumers to find amazing marketplaces that you know have high standards, so that way you don't have to do all that labor and work on every single product.